Has the family been working on
They started it before
Okay.
now.
Do you know if Beatrice in our office has been
I don't know.
contacted?
Another one of my friends has been handling that for her, but she couldn't be
Okay.
here today.
Okay. This case sounds familiar. But have her or somebody that's working on the case contact Beatrice Mancia in our office. We have somebody that works full-time on immigration issues and issues just like that, trying to get the family emergency situation. I don't think that's our office. That's next door. And
But a
sometimes
120-day ban, you think they could get through?
Beatrice works some miracles sometimes. So
Tell me your last name again.
Mancia.
Mancia.
Yep.
Beatrice Mancia.
So whoever's working on the case, contact our office and see if we can help.
Okay.
Yep. I'll keep this.
You can keep
All
that.
right, thank you.
Can I piggyback on that? Because that was really why I was here, is immigration. ban.
Okay. Yeah.
For starters, just, okay, so
We can get you a
someone
card.
has someone who can talk to Beatrice, but what about all the other people? What about the people who never even were allowed on a plane? They have a very rigorous vetting process already. All of the paperwork that these immigrants have to get their visas, and refugees included, all that paperwork expires. So in 120 days, their paperwork's going to be expired, and they're going to have to start the whole process over.
At the back of the line.
And that
So
is,
we're looking into that.
please do.
I haven't. Yesterday was the first time we heard that, so we're looking into whether that. And a lot of this is case by case basis, but the first time somebody mentioned that they would have to go through the full process again. We hadn't heard that, so we're looking into that.
Yeah, I mean, Samaritas organization and Bethany Christian, talk to those people.
Yeah, we're in contact with them.
And I guess my question is, why does it take an executive order, and why is Congress going along with this? Why is it taking an executive order when they could they can add, some things without just shutting down the entire immigration process? That 120 days is a big deal for those people. And, the vetting and the rhetoric that's surrounding it. My question really is Representative Huizenga part of the Christian right, or is he part of the alt-right? I mean, I hate to say it, but it's this rhetoric is fueling racism. And these are, this Islamophobia is just ridiculous. There has never been a terrorist attack on U.S. soil from any of these countries since 1975. And yet there are the Saudis and all these other Muslim countries who are, who have had terrorists here. And those, is anybody investigating the ties between Trump's oil and Trump's, all of Trump's
Real estate.
real estate in these countries,
Right.
and favoring one country over another.
What's there because he hasn't released his
Yeah,
statement, so we have no idea what his motivations are.
Right, and really the reason, the vetting, I'm talking to people who believe this stuff. They get the Breitbart news. They are reading that, we don't have enough vetting. We need to be safe. We need to keep our country safe first. Yeah, Fox News put a tweet out there that the Quebec shooting was by a Muslim. They left that up all day. And so did Breitbart, even knowing that it was a French Canadian who they left that up. And this I am going to go on and say it, unholy marriage between the Christian right and the alt-right is a problem. And we don't even have the same vetting for Bannon, who's on our National Security Council. He has had no vetting, he has had no security clearance, and yet people who have been translators and are supporting our troops are here, trying to get their families here, because they're in danger in Iraq. Because they have been fighting along with our troops. And we are putting troops in danger as well, because the way that ISIS works is ISIS is telling their people that there is a war against Muslims.
Because
Okay.
of all this rhetoric.
Right.
Exactly.
And so what is
Yeah.
happening? Here's the proof. Here's the proof they can show. When we are making America less safe by fueling this Islamophobia, because that just is what creates terrorists in the first place.
And right now, there's no break on what the executive can do unless Congress stands up to them.
And that's
The
Right.
majority
Right.
is
Right.
Republican,
Yes,
and
that's
we
why we're out.
depend on them to be less than brain dead on this.
Yeah, where are our checks and balances? I have
It's-
no
yeah.
faith in our checks and balances if Congress lets
I think
this go on.
yeah,
What
this
is Huizenga's position on Steve Bannon being in the National
Yes.
Security Council?
Second that question.
I haven't specifically asked that question of him. All I know is kind of the atmosphere around it is that Obama had some of his senior advisors attend some of the meetings, and
I don't think they
President
were
Bush
named.
had some senior advisors attend the meetings. What the administration has said is that they're putting this forward, and they don't know exactly how many of those meetings Mr. Bannon will attend, but they wanted to put it forward. So, long story short, I had asked specifically Bill of his position of having a senior advisor have a announced firm position on the National Security Council.
Well, there are leaders, Republican leaders around the country who are sounding off the alarms about this.
Sure.
This is unprecedented. I'd really like to see Mr. Huizenga speak out and say, we want our country to be secure. We want level-headed people who aren't interested in the strategic, political position of our country to be there protecting us.
Yeah, and I think we all agree it's very dangerous to have the alt-right faction of the Republican Party to take over, because that's a sure way to lose the Republican Party in the long run.
If you want a more detailed, obviously you probably want more detailed than what I gave you, fill out one of the comment cards, and we'll get you a response to that question. You, sir.
Yes, he has.
My name is Ben Joseph. I'm from Kentwood. I wanted to kind of speak on part of my generation. There's two issues I wanted to bring up that I think we feel we don't have much representation on, but are extremely important. Number one is the environment. I saw that Bill Huizenga voted to repeal the stream protection rule just recently, and I was very disappointed in that. But the other big issue having to do with the environment is just climate change. I'm scared to death of that issue, of what's going to happen in the future, the effects of rising sea levels. I've been reading about that. If we think the refugee crisis right now is bad, imagine what it's going to be like in another 20 years when the Middle East is too hot for human habitation, which is a possibility by the end of the century. By the time I'm an old man, nobody will be able to survive there according to the scientific consensus. So we're going to have some major refugee crisis on our hands compared to what we have now.
Okay.
And so I'm very concerned about, and other side effects, it's sort of a domino effect, all the other side effects that will have to do with that. But the other issue, other than the environment and climate change, that I'm particularly concerned about is college debt and college tuition. Even though I'll have to pay for most of my college on my own, I'm in college, and I know a lot of people that are going to be going out with thousands and thousands of dollars in debt that they're probably going to have for most of the rest of their life. And again, I want to at least see something done, something done about that, and some kind of representation in Congress towards bringing the tuition down or lowering interest rates or something along those lines.
Okay.
So those are the issues that I wanted to express.
Appreciate it. Mom cut you out of school for us?
Sorry.
Mom cut you out of school for us?
Yeah.
He's 18.
Yep.
Just voted
Yeah,
his
better
first election.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What college?
JRCC.
Anybody comment?
Yep. You're the last group, so you get a
I
little bit
share
more
a
time.
concern, but not quite as much as you do, probably. It's not a few years ago, I was asked what I was going to do in the Ice Age coming by a graduate from Kent State, had a doctorate in that scientist wrote on all these, and that was my question, what am I going to the Ice Age? It's coming. Same people. So there are alarmists, and we, again, like I said out there, we have to keep the balance. We have to try to see both sides. And
Both sides.
I'm 87 years old and you're young. I'm more concerned about the hot place following life than I am about what's going to happen here on Earth. And I shouldn't totally that because I have children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and I am concerned. But I'm not as much concerned as you are, because there's a God that gives famine, plenty, rain, sunshine, puts rain on one city, not on another city, and that's all in His control. And we have to see that first. And if we see that first, seek ye first the kingdom of God and His righteousness, all these things will be added. And God will give us the wisdom to control it. But if we don't get it from Him, we'll just remain foolish, and we'll do things to hurt ourselves. And I am concerned, but from the same college there was a group burning auto engine, college campus, but they didn't mind smoking marijuana. So we have a double-minded thing so often that we need to see that we can't think straight if we're double-minded. The Bible says a man that is double-minded is unstable in all his ways, and we have to be careful of being too single-minded. Like I said, balance, this, that, your view is all of it together, and we hope He can straighten it out.
All right.
But
Thank you.
one thing I'll make on Obamacare,
Sure.
make it as simple as possible.
Yes.
Nobody understood Obamacare.
Yeah.
Nobody in Congress.
I just have one more question. Talk,
Because it's impossible.
We have one more person.
I have one more question as well.
Oh, sure.
So there's talks about Congress approving taxpayer money for building the wall. What's Huizenga's position on that?
Actually, my answer to the man was, what am I going to the Ice Age? I says, plant corn. Because God said, seed time and harvest will not fail. Hot or cold.
Well, if a 97%
Better and worse, but
scientific,
always there.
if a 97% scientific consensus is somehow debatable, then we'll have that debate. But
That's what we need, debate.
well,
Kind debate.
We've already had the
well, I think we've already had that
The
debate.
debate's already been had.
Yeah,
I guess it just depends on if you believe in science or not.
Right.
Yeah, the question is,
Yeah.
is science real or is it not? And I believe it's real. I believe in science.
We believe.
I grew up on a farm, and farmers had as much to do with climate change as anybody else.
That's right.
Making it better and good. So, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all.
So, it's not a simple question with immigration. I believe, Bill believes we need to do something about securing the border first, and then we have a lot of issues surrounding that.
So there's a net zero impact on immigration. So I don't know why we're talking about when, education costs are through the roof. Why we're even talking about, spending any taxpayer money on a wall. I mean, that just, I don't understand that.
There's certainly a concern about securing the borders.
Okay, so,
Well, that's not.
I guess,
That's already.
From a
Here's
net
the
zero,
thing.
there's a net zero effect
yeah,
on Mexican immigration.
right,
People
we
leaving
have
versus people
secure
coming.
borders, we have a vetting process, and for one thing, a wall is not, and it, I would hope that Representative Huizenga is aware of this, but if he's not, will you please write this down, because, Mexicans are leaving The wall is not going to help anything. The people that are coming in through border protection, through border control, and they are reporting right to border control, and they are from Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Guatemala. And I'm also a Spanish teacher besides being a French teacher, so I know this. And they're coming, they're refugees, and they are seeking asylum. And the only mechanism we have for seeking asylum is going to the country and asking for asylum. Or going to the UN in the refugee camp and asking for asylum. The people we are letting in from overseas, they are the 1%. It's 1% of the refugee population even gets that second interview to start the vetting process. On that side. On the southern border, the wall is not going to make any difference. There's a movie called Voces Inocentes. I would just encourage everybody to watch that movie. You can find it on YouTube. It's Innocent Voices. You need the English subtitles. It documents, well, it's based on a true story of a child from El Salvador in the 80s, and we supported that government that was causing the refugee crisis, and that has not been fixed. I mean, we were sending people back, and they were starting gangs there. I mean, all of these people are trying to get away from violence, and building a wall is not the answer. We need to be helping those countries, but we also need to be realizing that Mexicans are not coming in. You know, Mexicans are not crossing someplace in the desert. It is now Central Americans, and Mexico is really our partner in this, and we need to all come together about this and to try to say, that Mexico is the problem, and all of that rhetoric is not fixing the problem. And
it's a lot of money that could be helping those people.
And we have farmers who need those people, that need migrant workers, and people can't take a seasonal job. They can't take off from their regular job to get a seasonal job. And, we talk about tuition. We have a doctor shortage. So why is it so expensive and so prohibitive to become a doctor in this country? What are we doing? We're denying people that just went home to visit, who are doctors here. We're bringing in doctors from other countries, and then they go home to visit, and then they can't get back in, and they have patients. Why are we not making it affordable for students to go to school? Not just students who, get the top grades and everything, but all students, so that they can get, ready for the new jobs that are out there. Why are we not making it more easy to become a doctor for those kids who have the qualifications? Then we won't have the problem that, we need to get doctors from other places.
In general, this whole Democrat versus Republican, I think we're seeing a change in all this, that I feel. And I have many friends that have changed from Republican to, not really Democrat, but my own husband, people in this room, all over Michigan, all over this country.
And in his district.
I think he needs to know that.
It's not going to be a slam dunk anymore.
I consider myself a Republican, but I can't
Exactly.
right now. I can't do it.
Think of this. A lot of us we were Republicans. And so it's now to the point where you can't just go in there and say, I'm just going to do the Republican thing. There is no Republican thing. There is no Democratic thing. There's the human thing. And,
Exactly.
That's why we're so passionate about this. That's why we go to these marches. And that's why we're doing this. It's not because we're mad that Hillary didn't win.
Right.
That's not what this is about. So,
There's a lot of people here that just never voted for him. I think he needs to know that there's a shift, and it's not just because you live in West Michigan. It's not going to be a slam dunk anymore.
And this whole idea of fake news and Trump saying everything is fake news except for Fox News because they say nice things about it. This is just, we're not accepting this.
Yeah, I mean,
we're all
that's-
listening to NPR.
We're all paid, aren't we?
We're listening
And
to
on the
real
flip
news
side of that,
and real
I
science.
figured out I'm a diehard Democrat, But if I'm gonna live in this Republican district, then I'm gonna become a Republican voter because Mr. Huizenga is uncontested all the time in the Republican primary. I'm gonna vote. I'm gonna find another candidate that I can get behind, and I will vote for that person because I know a Republican is gonna win.
Yeah.
Well, if they're not a Republican that's listening to everyone and is really trying to become part of the solution and not continuing to be part of the problem, then I will become a Republican because our country is more important than right or left.
It is. It's not about
This
race.
generation is different than, about how they look at parties.
Oh yeah, I don't know a single person that actually calls himself a Democrat or
It's really
Republican.
progressive and regressive is what
Right.
it is now.
Yeah.
And Republicans can be progressive. Democrats can be regressive. I mean, but if that's really what it should be about now, is are we going to program, are we going to move forward as a country or are we going to go backwards? And unfortunately, our president is not progressive. But we're seeing more and more representatives that are standing up and saying we want to be progressive.
And I would also encourage him to go back and look at what Reagan and George Senior Bush said about immigration. Because if you go back to
And
1980 Republican primary debate, everything that they said is reflecting what the middle and really what the left is saying now about what we are saying about immigration, which is let's fix the problem, let's not demonize the people that we are bringing in by our choice
Even
to
the
employ.
Republican Party,
Right, they've
just,
gone so far.
2012, big discussions about reaching out to minority populations. Remember that? Boy, wasn't that a long time ago? The world
I miss
shifts.
George Bush. I miss him so much.
And is he aware of all the Christian organizations that are against this immigrant ban? Good.
But I guess in closing thought here, I really want to see Mr. Huizenga stand up to Trump.
Yes.
Trump is dangerous.
Yes.
We are terrified
And
for
Steve
the
Bannon.
security of our
And
country.
I think we can all agree he's not a Republican.
No, he's not.
Yeah.
He's not a
I mean, he
Republican.
was pro-choice. He's not.
Yeah, he has no center.
He's,
But there's so many worrisome things happening. And it's not like just worried citizens. There are leaders in our country who've been in government who are Republican who are sounding alarms. And we need people to be putting checks and balances on him. He's dangerous. He's making dangerous decisions.
He's trying to shut down the press, freedom of the press. That's really scary.
Yeah, I mean, that whole thing. I mean, I watched the campaign in horror describing press that way. The man is crazy, and we need Representative Huizenga to speak up for him. We will be rooting for him when we hear, no,
We will.
I feel differently. This is what needs to happen.
I would happily vote for him 2 years if he actually is one of the
Yes,
yes.
I would have.
Yeah.
Me too.
Yeah,
I would vote for him.
Yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
very much.